Inside every trader, there exists an invisible code, a pattern woven not into their blood but into their behavior. It's not biological DNA, yet it determines survival just as precisely. It's the unseen blueprint that dictates how you react when the market moves against you, how you behave when fear takes over, how long you can stand still when greed whispers in your ear. This is your trader DNA. It's not born, it's built line by line, trade by trade, decision by decision. And yet, most traders never learn to read it. They chase systems, signals, and secret strategies, never realizing that what truly defines their results isn't on the screen. It's inside them. Their reactions, their impulses, their beliefs. The truth no one wants to admit is that the chart isn't fighting you, you're fighting yourself. Every trader thinks they need a better strategy. But what if the real upgrade is in your wiring? What if your losses, your hesitation, your impulsive entries, are not market mistakes but reflections of your psychological code? Because when volatility hits, the market doesn't test your setup. It tests your stability. It presses on the weak spots in your emotional structure, the cracks in your patience, the gaps in your discipline. And in that moment, every untrained instinct screams louder than logic. You begin to act from emotion, not from structure. You try to escape pain, chase control, and force order onto chaos. And that's when everything breaks. That's when most traders lose, not to the market, but to their own internal design. And yet, there's something powerful about realizing this. Because once you see that your trader DNA isn't fixed, once you understand that it's not some permanent limitation but a code that can be rewritten, everything changes. You begin to realize that consistency doesn't come from finding the perfect setup. It comes from building the kind of mind that can execute the same setup perfectly under pressure. That's the real secret behind every consistent trader. They aren't special, they're structured. Their edge isn't their IQ, it's their internal alignment. They've trained their mind to obey process over emotion, logic over impulse, rules over randomness. Their DNA is coded for control, but for most traders that code is corrupted. It's full of biases, fears, and emotional loops, unconscious patterns that hijack decision-making. You tell yourself you'll follow your plan, but one candle against your position and suddenly your brain switches from discipline to defense. You start managing fear instead of managing trades. You start chasing comfort instead of clarity. And every time you do, your DNA writes another line of that same losing code. That's why some traders keep repeating the same mistakes. Not because they don't know better, but because they're programmed to react that way. And until you bring those patterns into awareness, until you face the emotional machinery running your decisions, you'll keep reliving the same results under new charts, new mentors, new methods. You can't outperform your own programming. So, the real question isn't, what strategy works best? The real question is, are you wired for consistency? Because the difference between those who make it and those who don't isn't knowledge. It's alignment. The consistent trader's wiring supports their process. The struggling trader's wiring sabotages it. One sees loss as data. The other sees loss as failure. One respects uncertainty. The other fears it. One acts from preparation. The other reacts from emotion. And that gap, that invisible difference, defines everything. But here's the beauty: in all of this, wiring can be changed. Patterns can be rewritten. The same way the market evolves, so can you. Because discipline, patience, adaptability, these aren't traits you're born with. They're muscles you build through awareness, reflection, and repetition. When you learn to decode your own trader DNA, you begin to see where your emotions intercept logic, where your beliefs distort perception, where your instincts mislead you. You start catching yourself mid-pattern, noticing the early signals of emotional takeover before they become damage. That's when trading becomes something entirely different. Not a chase for profit, but a process of mastery. Not a war against the market, but a dialogue with yourself. Because the real edge isn't your strategy, it's your state of mind. A calm trader in chaos will always outperform an emotional trader in order. A patient trader in drawdown will always last longer than a reactive trader in profit. That's the paradox of this game. Success doesn't come from speed, it comes from stillness. Every chart you open is a mirror reflecting your internal design. Every trade you place is a signal revealing how your mind operates under pressure. The market doesn't expose your skills, it exposes your self-control. It doesn't care what you think you know. It only responds to how well you manage what you feel. That's the real decoding. That's what separates those who rise from those who repeat. You can keep trying to trade the market, or you can learn to trade yourself. Because once you understand your wiring, once you master your emotional architecture, the market stops feeling like chaos. It starts to make sense. And in that moment, something profound happens. You stop reacting. You start responding. You stop chasing. You start choosing. That's when your trading begins to align with consistency. Not because the market changed, but because you did. So if you've ever wondered why you keep getting close, only to fall apart right before breakthrough, it's not bad luck. It's your DNA calling for redesign. It's your mind asking to evolve. And once you start that process, once you begin decoding your trader DNA, the same patterns that used to sabotage you become signals of awareness. You stop being your biggest obstacle and become your greatest edge. Because the truth is, every trader is wired for something. The only question is, are you wired for failure or built for mastery? When chaos hits the market, everyone sees the same thing. The same flashing screens, the same collapsing candles, the same sudden waves of red consuming every chart. Yet somehow, amid the noise, one trader sits still, calm, focused, detached. While others panic, scream, or slam their keyboards in frustration, this one remains composed. The difference isn't luck and it isn't knowledge. It's wiring. Because when the market burns, truth reveals itself, not in price action but in human reaction. Some traders crumble under volatility, others rise above it. The question is, why? Why does one mind thrive in chaos while another self-destructs under the same pressure? Why can one person execute with precision in the storm while another freezes, doubts, or breaks their own rules? The answer lies not in strategy, not in intelligence, but in something much deeper. An invisible code that defines how you behave under uncertainty. A psychological blueprint silently governing every decision you make. That is trader DNA. The internal programming that decides who survives and who doesn't when emotion collides with risk. Every trade you take is a reflection of it. Every hesitation, every premature exit, every revenge trade. All of it is written in your psychological wiring. Some are built to stay calm, others are trained to panic. But here's what most people never realize: none of this is random. Trading behavior isn't born. It's built. It's the product of how you think, what you've conditioned yourself to believe, and how well you've trained your emotional circuits to operate under pressure. Yet so many still cling to a myth. The myth of the born trader. You've probably heard it before. Some people just have it. They say it like trading success is a genetic gift, like discipline or patience is encoded in someone's blood. As if some traders enter the market already wired for success, while others are destined to fail. But that myth is the most dangerous illusion of all. Because it convinces you that your flaws are permanent, that your impulses can't be controlled, that your emotions are your fate. Think about it. Nobody is born with a surgeon's steady hands or a pilot's composure under crisis. These aren't gifts. They're the result of rigorous conditioning, relentless repetition, and deep psychological training. The pilot who calmly lands a failing aircraft wasn't born fearless. He became fearless through preparation. The athlete who performs flawlessly in the final seconds wasn't born with supernatural confidence. It was carved into him through failure, pressure, and repetition. So why should trading be any different? The ability to stay calm under pressure, to detach emotion from decision, to follow a plan when everything inside you screams to do the opposite. These are not natural talents. They are trained responses. They are cultivated habits built through awareness, reflection, and consistent mental conditioning. But most traders never get that far because they're too busy chasing something external. The perfect strategy, the secret indicator, the next edge. They forget that no system can save a mind that can't execute. You can have the sharpest tools, but if your hands tremble every time the market moves, those tools will cut you instead of carving results. That's why so many traders spend years in circles, switching systems, buying courses, changing mentors, without realizing that the real enemy isn't out there. It's in here, inside the mind, inside the wiring, inside the unseen behavioral code that determines every action long before the finger ever clicks buy. Because trading isn't about prediction, it's about perception. Not about outsmarting the market, but about outsmarting your own reactions to it. The myth of natural talent keeps you stuck because it whispers a comforting lie. You're just not meant for this. But what if that's not true? What if everything you need for consistency isn't missing? It's just untrained. What if your wiring can be rebuilt, line by line, until your reactions serve you instead of sabotaging you? That's the real journey of decoding trader DNA. To take what feels random and make it deliberate. To transform emotional chaos into mental architecture. To understand that your ability to perform under uncertainty is not luck, it's learnable. Because every consistent trader you admire wasn't born that way. They were forged through repetition, failure, and relentless self-analysis. They rewired their instincts through process. They learned to silence emotion through structure. They replaced reaction with reflection, and you can too. But first you must confront the truth. Your results are not caused by the market. They're caused by your mind. Your wins and losses are not just outcomes of analysis. They're reflections of your psychological state. The charts are mirrors, not mysteries. They show you not what the market is doing, but what you're doing under pressure. That's the moment trading stops being about setups and starts being about self-awareness. Because real progress doesn't begin with a new strategy. It begins with an honest question. Who am I when the market moves against me? Do I panic? Do I rationalize? Do I freeze hoping for reversal instead of accepting reality? Every answer reveals a line of your code, your trader DNA. And until you decode it, every strategy will eventually collapse under the same emotional weight. This journey is about uncovering that code, not to judge it, but to understand it. To recognize that what feels like weakness is simply untrained wiring. To realize that what feels like emotional chaos is just misalignment between logic and instinct. Because you can't control the market, but you can reprogram the mind that reacts to it. And once you do, everything changes. You begin to see patterns in your behavior as clearly as you see patterns on the chart. You notice that fear has a structure, that hesitation follows a sequence, that impulsiveness has triggers. You start catching yourself in the split-second gap between feeling and action. The moment where your old code would have taken over. That's where mastery begins. Not on the screen, but in that silent internal moment where you choose awareness over instinct. And that's what this journey is truly about. It's not about predicting price. It's about decoding yourself. It's about understanding the architecture of your emotions, the algorithms of your thoughts, the impulses written into your decision-making process. Because the trader who learns to master that layer, the invisible layer of psychology, holds the only real edge that never decays with time. So as you step into this exploration, understand one thing clearly: this isn't a lesson in setups or signals. It's a deep dive into you. Into the mental architecture that either sustains discipline or destroys it. Into the emotional loops that repeat until you decide to rewrite them. Because every trader eventually reaches the same crossroad. The point where more knowledge doesn't equal better results. That's when you realize the problem isn't lack of information, it's lack of integration. You don't need more data. You need deeper understanding. To decode your trader DNA is to understand yourself at the level the market exposes. Not the version you show others, but the version you become under stress. The real trader. The one behind the strategy. The one who makes the final decision when the candle moves. And that's the truth most avoid facing. But those who do, those who dare to study their own wiring, find the only form of consistency that lasts. Because trading success isn't random. It isn't luck. It's not inherited. It's a product of awareness. The byproduct of reprogramming your internal code until it serves your purpose instead of sabotaging it. To decode trader DNA is to stop asking, why does the market hurt me? And start asking, what is it trying to reveal about me? That's where real transformation begins. That's where the next level of trading is unlocked. And that's where you stop surviving the markets and start mastering them. Every trader believes they're in control, that their choices, their clicks, their wins and losses come purely from logic. But beneath that surface, something far deeper is at play. Every hesitation before pressing buy, every rush of excitement after a win, every desperate attempt to recover from a loss. All of it originates from invisible forces within the mind. This is what we call trader DNA. Not the kind that runs in blood or chromosomes, but the unseen code of psychological and behavioral patterns that quietly determine whether a trader thrives or self-destructs. Imagine two traders sitting before identical screens. Same setup, same market, same opportunity. One waits patiently, entering only when his plan aligns. The other, restless, jumps in early, heart racing, palms sweating. A few ticks against him and he panics, closing instantly. Minutes later, he sees price move in his original direction and feels that sinking regret. He wasn't beaten by the market. He was beaten by his own biology. That moment, the flicker of fear, the impulse to act, is not random. It's neurological. It's the brain revealing its wiring. In the simplest terms, trader DNA is the sum of how your brain's systems interact during moments of uncertainty. The prefrontal cortex, the rational planner, whispers patience and analysis. The limbic system, the emotional core, screams urgency and survival. In trading, these two forces are at constant war. When markets are calm, your prefrontal cortex rules. You see structure, probability, logic. But when volatility spikes, when candles move faster than thought, your limbic system hijacks the wheel. Suddenly, the goal shifts from executing strategy to escaping pain. This is how traders lose not just money, but self-control. Neuroscience has long shown that human beings are not built for fast, high-stakes decision-making under pressure. The same biological circuits that once kept us safe from predators now misfire when faced with red and green numbers. Fear of loss activates the same neural pathways as physical danger. Greed mimics the euphoria of hunting and winning. Revenge trading, that burning desire to earn back what was lost, is nothing more than your limbic system seeking emotional equilibrium. Trading, in essence, is a daily psychological experiment testing how long logic can stand against primal instinct. Consider dopamine, the brain's reward molecule. It's the chemical of anticipation, not satisfaction. It spikes not when you win, but when you expect to win. That's why traders feel addicted to setups, even before they take them. The moment a trader sees potential profit forming, dopamine surges, creating a rush that feels impossible to resist. It's not greed, it's biology. This surge narrows attention, blurs judgment, and tricks the brain into overestimating reward while underestimating risk. That's why traders overtrade. Not because they lack discipline, but because their neurochemistry convinces them they're one trade away from glory. Meet Daniel, a disciplined trader, at least on paper. Every morning, he planned his trades meticulously, clear rules, defined risk. But as soon as the charts lit up and one position turned green, the dopamine wave hit, his pulse quickened, and suddenly one trade became 5. His calm strategy dissolved into chaos. Each win felt euphoric, each loss unbearable. At the end of the day, his account was in drawdown, but his brain was still chasing that chemical high. This is what scientists call reward prediction error, when your brain overreacts to perceived opportunity and underreacts to actual danger. Daniel didn't fail because he was reckless. He failed because his brain was addicted to the anticipation of success. Then there's cortisol, the body's stress hormone, the silent assassin of rationality. When markets turn against you, cortisol floods the bloodstream, tightening muscles, accelerating heart rate, and clouding cognition. Suddenly, time feels compressed, thoughts blur, and every move feels like a threat. This is why traders cut winners early and let losers run. It's not just poor risk management. It's biology's attempt to reduce psychological pain. The more cortisol your system produces, the more your mind seeks immediate relief, often through impulsive actions that only deepen the loss. The worst part: chronic cortisol exposure conditions your brain to associate trading with fear. Over time, the charts themselves trigger anxiety even before the first trade is placed. But balance exists. Serotonin, the chemical of calm and stability, plays the opposite role. It's what allows a trader to wait, to detach, to see volatility not as chaos but as rhythm. Traders with stable serotonin levels display consistency, not because they're emotionless, but because they've learned how to regulate their internal chemistry. Through habits, routine, and discipline, they've reprogrammed their minds to remain anchored even when markets roar. They still feel fear and excitement, but they don't act on it. Their emotions are acknowledged, not obeyed. This is the difference between reactive trading and responsive trading. One ruled by chemicals, the other guided by awareness. But the wiring of trader DNA doesn't begin in the market. It begins long before, in life. Our brains are not blank slates, they're molded by experiences. Upbringing, exposure to risk, financial struggles, parental beliefs, all of these shape how we respond to uncertainty. If you grew up hearing that money is scarce, that risk is dangerous, or that success belongs to others, your subconscious may resist financial growth even while consciously chasing it. These hidden scripts, known in psychology as money scripts, operate silently. They dictate whether you hold winners too short or take losses too long. They whisper, "Don't be greedy," when opportunity arises, and "Don't lose," when courage is required. These subconscious programs are the inherited DNA of your environment, coded not in cells, but in beliefs. Picture a child raised in a home where every financial decision ended in fear. Bills meant panic, investments meant danger. Years later, that child becomes a trader. On the surface, they study strategy, read charts, understand probability. But deep inside, that old programming awakens with every losing candle. The same fear that once surrounded money in childhood now dictates trading behavior in adulthood. The trader doesn't just fight the market. They fight a lifetime of conditioning. Conversely, consider a trader raised in a household where risk was normalized, where failure wasn't shameful but educational. Such individuals tend to recover faster, adapt quicker, and view losses as data, not defeat. Their trader DNA isn't fixed by genetics, it's sculpted by exposure. Every experience, from financial scarcity to emotional support, leaves its imprint on neural wiring. This is why two traders with identical skills can experience vastly different outcomes. One views drawdown as doom, the other sees it as feedback. But here's the crucial truth: Trader DNA is not destiny, it's not unchangeable. The same neural pathways that drive impulsivity can be rewired through awareness and consistent practice. Neuroscience calls this neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new connections and override old habits. Through deliberate focus, journaling, meditation, and post-trade reflection, traders can literally reshape how their brains react to stress and reward. Awareness becomes the first form of control. Every time you pause before revenge trading, every time you breathe through a losing streak without emotional reaction, you weaken the old neural circuit and strengthen a new one. Over time, the act of patience becomes natural, not forced, but wired. This is the essence of decoding trader DNA, realizing that while our minds are built by biology and experience, they are not prisoners of them. Each trading session is not a test of market skill, but a training ground for mental reprogramming. The charts are mirrors, reflecting not just price movement but personal evolution. Every impulsive trade is a signal from your limbic system. Every moment of calm is your prefrontal cortex reclaiming control. Trading doesn't just reveal your psychology, it refines it. When we understand the chemistry beneath our decisions, we no longer label ourselves as emotional, undisciplined, or unlucky. We see the mechanics of being human. We recognize that the same dopamine that causes addiction can fuel motivation, that cortisol can sharpen focus when balanced, that serotonin can transform patience into power. The goal isn't to suppress emotion, but to master it, to align biology with intention. And as traders begin to observe their reactions, the quickened heartbeat before a trade, the surge of thrill after a win, the dread after a loss, something profound happens. Awareness replaces chaos. The internal battlefield quiets. The mind begins to function like a seasoned pilot, navigating turbulence with poise. Because at that point, trading stops being a struggle against emotion. It becomes a dance with it. The truth is, no trader was ever born with perfect wiring. The natural traders you see, the ones calm under pressure, didn't inherit serenity. They built it through repetition, reflection, and resilience. Their DNA evolved not by chance, but by conscious rewiring. That's the science and the art of trader DNA. So when you next face the market, remember, your screen doesn't just display price action, it displays the architecture of your mind. Every flicker of emotion, every impulse, every hesitation is part of the code you're here to rewrite. Your task isn't to find the perfect strategy, it's to understand the operating system running behind every click. Because once you master that, consistency is no longer a mystery. It's inevitable, and that's where the real decoding begins. Not in studying charts, but in studying yourself. Because beneath the noise of the market lies a far deeper signal, your own evolution waiting to unfold. Discipline, adaptability, resilience, 3 words that appear simple, yet they define the line between chaos and mastery in trading. These are not abstract virtues found in motivational quotes, they are the invisible architecture holding up every consistent trader's mind. Without them, even the most brilliant strategy collapses under pressure. With them, even a simple system can create longevity. These are the pillars of trader psychology, the mental framework through which emotion becomes order, and uncertainty transforms into opportunity. Discipline is not talent. It is not born from genetics or luck. It is built from repetition, forged in moments when everything in you screams to act, but you don't. Imagine a trader sitting in a dimly lit room. The screen flashes red, price moves sharply against his position, his breathing slows, his finger hovers over the mouse, but he doesn't click. His eyes remain still, not frozen by fear, but grounded by understanding. He knows the plan, he knows his stop is set, he knows panic is not protection, it's poison. The market moves, his heart races, but he stays silent. That silence is not passivity, it's control. It's the quiet sound of discipline in action. Most traders think discipline means suppressing emotion. But it's not about killing your feelings, it's about mastering your reactions. Emotional detachment is not coldness or apathy, it's clarity. It's the ability to feel fear and still follow logic. It's what allows a trader to lose without breaking, to win without arrogance, to exist within volatility without being consumed by it. Emotional control is built the same way muscles are, through consistent, repetitive stress followed by recovery. Every time you resist the urge to overtrade, every time you log a losing day without emotional collapse, you are training your psychological resilience. You are rewiring your brain to respond instead of react. Discipline, at its core, is a habit loop, cue, routine, reward. You feel uncertainties, cue, you follow your plan, routine, and you experience calm instead of chaos, reward. The more this loop repeats, the more automatic it becomes. This is why journaling, rule-based entries, and structured trade reviews aren't optional tools, they are neural training mechanisms. A written plan externalizes your prefrontal cortex. It acts as your rational mind when your emotional brain tries to take control. Over time, that external structure becomes internalized. What once required willpower becomes instinct. That's when a trader crosses the threshold from discipline as effort to discipline as identity. But discipline alone is not enough. Markets evolve and rigidity kills. Adaptability is the second pillar, the oxygen of survival. Every major market era has rewritten the rules of engagement. The traders who thrived during the dot-com boom were not the same ones who dominated in the 2008 crisis or the crypto revolution. Yet the ones who endured across decades shared one trait. They learned how to unlearn. They stayed humble enough to question their own certainty. Think of Paul Tudor Jones in the 1980s, a man who rode trends but never clung to them. He once said, "Losers average losers." It wasn't arrogance, it was awareness that markets change faster than egos can adapt. Or think of traders who transitioned from stock pits to electronic screens, then to algorithmic environments. Adaptability wasn't optional, it was survival. Each transition demanded curiosity, not pride. The moment a trader believes they've figured it out, the market punishes that illusion. Adaptability is rooted in humility. The willingness to say, "I might be wrong," is not weakness. It's the foundation of growth. It's the same trait scientists rely on, athletes cultivate, and entrepreneurs embody. A trader must become a lifelong learner, not a signal collector. The most dangerous phrase in trading isn't, "I don't know." It's, "I know." Because the market never stops evolving, and those who stop learning are already falling behind. To remain adaptable, a trader must cultivate curiosity, that quiet hunger to understand what others ignore. It's curiosity that drives you to analyze losing trades, not with anger but with interest. It's curiosity that makes you ask, what changed in market structure? What can I learn from this pain? The best traders are detectives of their own behavior, explorers of probability, and students of uncertainty. They don't seek comfort, they seek truth. And truth in trading is always dynamic. The third pillar, resilience, is the heartbeat of long-term success. Every trader bleeds. The market has no mercy, no bias, no loyalty. Losses are inevitable. But professionals recover differently. They do not measure success by how often they win, but by how fast they return to equilibrium after losing. Resilience is not about avoiding drawdowns, it's about not letting drawdowns define you. Imagine a fighter in the ring. He's been hit hard, blood trickles, vision blurs, the crowd roars. But he adjusts his stance, breathes, and waits for his moment. Every punch teaches him something about his opponent's rhythm. Every fall strengthens his timing. A trader's journey is no different. The market will land blows, drawdowns, self-doubt, overconfidence, frustration. But resilience is the ability to learn from each punch, not flee from it. It's the calm voice inside that says, "I've been here before, and I know how to rebuild." Resilient traders view failure as feedback. They don't personalize losses, they process them. Instead of emotional collapse, they perform autopsies, studying, reflecting, refining. They use journaling not as a diary of pain, but as a blueprint for evolution. When their systems break, they don't break with them. They adapt, evolve, and return sharper. Resilience also lives in the body, not just the mind. Physical health, exercise, sleep, nutrition directly impacts emotional stability. Cortisol levels, dopamine regulation, and serotonin balance are all influenced by lifestyle. That's why high-performing traders treat recovery rituals like part of their edge. Whether it's meditation, walks, time away from screens, or simply breathing before a trade, these moments are not luxuries. They are acts of resilience maintenance. Because a fatigued brain cannot manage risk, a restless mind cannot see clearly, and a burned-out trader cannot make rational choices. The path to resilience begins with self-compassion. Too many traders confuse toughness with punishment. They berate themselves after losses, believing shame equals accountability. But guilt doesn't create growth, reflection does. True mental toughness isn't the absence of pain, it's the ability to face it without identity collapse. To say, "I lost, but I'm not a loser." To separate self-worth from trade outcomes. The resilient trader knows they are not their P&L, they are the process behind it. Each of these pillars, discipline, adaptability, resilience, works in harmony. Discipline builds structure. Adaptability keeps that structure flexible. Resilience ensures it endures. Together they form a mental ecosystem where pressure becomes fuel, not fire, where emotion becomes data, not drama, and where setbacks become signals of progress. Think back to the calm trader we saw in the beginning, the one who watched the screen flash red but didn't flinch. His composure was not luck, it was discipline shaped through habit. His openness to change was not guesswork, it was adaptability built through humility. His ability to recover after loss was not detachment, it was resilience forged in experience. That trader wasn't born different, He was built different, through deliberate evolution. The market is a mirror that amplifies who you are. If you're impulsive, it multiplies chaos. If you're patient, it rewards consistency. But when you build these three pillars, you stop being at the mercy of emotion. You begin to use the market as your training ground for mastery. Each trade becomes a psychological repetition, strengthening the neural circuits of calm, learning, and recovery. Discipline keeps your finger steady when temptation whispers. Adaptability keeps your mind open when the world shifts. Resilience keeps your heart steady when everything seems lost. This is not just trading psychology. It's human psychology refined through risk. Over time, these pillars merge into identity. You no longer try to be disciplined, you simply are. You no longer force yourself to adapt, curiosity becomes natural. You no longer rebuild after setbacks, recovery becomes rhythm. That's when trading stops being a mental battle and becomes a form of flow, where market noise fades and clarity takes its place. And as you look back on your journey, through the chaos, the evolution, the pain, you realize something profound. You were never trying to master the market. You were mastering yourself. The charts were merely the canvas, the trades merely the brushstrokes, and your psychology, the true art in progress. Because in the end, success in trading doesn't come from predicting price. It comes from decoding the mind that reacts to it. And those who build their discipline, nurture their adaptability, and protect their resilience, they don't just survive the market, they transcend it. Have you ever stopped to wonder why you keep making the same trading mistakes again and again? Why, even after all the books you've read, all the backtests you've run, and all the advice you've listened to, your finger still finds its way to that buy or sell button at the worst possible time? It's not your strategy. It's not your setup. It's your wiring. The truth is, every trader carries an invisible script in their mind, an emotional code that silently runs the show behind every decision, every hesitation, and every impulse. Today, we're going to break that code. We're going to strip away the excuses and run a full psychological self-diagnostic to find out if you are truly wired to win in the markets, or if your own brain has been your biggest opponent all along. Close your eyes for a second and imagine this. The chart is moving, the candles are breathing, and you're waiting for your setup. You've done your analysis, your plan is clear, but suddenly the market makes a strong move without you. Your pulse rises, your breathing shortens, and your mouse finger twitches. You can feel it, the fear of missing out. You tell yourself, it's still early, and you jump in. Within seconds, the market reverses and your profit evaporates. Sound familiar? That's not bad luck. That's impulsivity. That's FOMO. It's your emotional brain hijacking your logic because it can't handle being left out. The market didn't fool you. Your own biology did. Now picture this: you take a loss. Maybe it was small. Maybe it stung a little. You stare at the red number, and your mind whispers, get it back. Without thinking, you re-enter, double the position size, same direction. You're not trading anymore. You're fighting. You're not in the market, you're in your ego. That's revenge trading, the most seductive trap in the trader's mind. The pain of being wrong hurts more than the loss itself. Your brain demands justice, and the only way it knows how to find it is to gamble again. But the market doesn't care about justice. It only responds to discipline. Or maybe you've been there before. You enter a beautiful trade, it moves in your favor, you're up nicely, but fear creeps in. You close it early for a small win, pat yourself on the back, and then watch the market explode in your original direction. You stare in disbelief as your tiny gain could have been a massive victory. You didn't lack knowledge. You lacked tolerance for uncertainty. That's loss aversion. The fear of losing what you already have outweighing the possibility of gaining more. Your primitive brain can't tell the difference between protecting a trade and protecting your life. And what about the times you just won't quit? You've been in drawdown for weeks, maybe months. Your system isn't performing, but you keep trading the same setup, telling yourself, it'll work next time. You've spent so much time and energy that giving up feels impossible. That's the sunk cost fallacy, the belief that effort equals entitlement. But the market doesn't care how long you've suffered. It only rewards those who adapt. Every losing system, every broken method, is a test of your ability to detach. Now imagine you're scrolling through social media. A popular trader announces that Bitcoin is going to the moon. You look at your chart and suddenly everything confirms that view. You see bullish signals that weren't there before. You convince yourself this is the move. That's confirmation bias. Your brain filtering reality to protect your beliefs instead of your capital. You start seeing what you want to see, not what's actually there. That's how bubbles are born, traders trapped inside their own echo chambers. Every one of these traps, FOMO, revenge trading, loss aversion, confirmation bias, sunk cost fallacy, isn't a flaw in your character. It's a feature of your biology. The same instincts that once kept humans alive are now the ones destroying your trading account. Back in the wild, reacting fast saved your life. Today, in the markets, reacting fast kills your account. Your amygdala, the emotional center of your brain, is wired to avoid pain, seek pleasure, and cling to certainty. The market gives you none of those things. It offers only uncertainty, risk, and endless temptation. That's why the market is the ultimate mirror. It shows you not who you want to be, but who you really are. Let's take a look at history for a second. During the dot-com bubble, everyone saw themselves as geniuses. Confirmation bias was rampant. Every piece of news, no matter how absurd, was twisted into a bullish signal. People didn't buy companies, they bought dreams. When the bubble burst, it wasn't the market that betrayed them. It was their own minds. The same happened during the crypto mania of 2021. FOMO spread faster than logic. Traders bought at the top, convinced that being late was better than being left out. And when the crash came, loss aversion took over. Instead of cutting losses, they held on, hoping for a miracle. The market punished hope, as it always does. But here's where it gets interesting. The traders who survive, those who truly rise, aren't the ones with the best strategies or the fastest computers. They're the ones who've mastered themselves. They've turned awareness into armor. They don't fight their psychology, they study it. They treat every emotion as data. When fear hits, they ask why. When greed whispers, they listen but don't obey. They know that the only difference between chaos and opportunity is how you perceive it. So how do you rewire yourself? It starts with metacognition, the ability to see yourself think. It's the skill of observing your own mind in real time, catching the thought before it becomes an action. It's the moment when you pause and ask, what's driving me right now, strategy or emotion? That single second of awareness can save you from hours, days, even months of regret. Awareness is the gap between reaction and response, and that gap is where your trading power lives. From there, you enter what I call the awareness, reflection, adjustment loop. First, awareness, you notice the behavior as it happens. You catch yourself chasing, forcing, or avoiding. Second, reflection, you dig into the why. Was it fear of missing out? The need to prove something? Boredom? And third, adjustment. You make the conscious shift. You stop trading emotionally, you step back, you breathe, or you journal what triggered you. You transform the emotion into education. Every time you complete this loop, your emotional wiring gets a little stronger, a little sharper. Eventually, awareness becomes instinct, and instinct becomes mastery. Trading is not about suppressing emotion, it's about decoding it. You can't become robotic, you have to become self-aware. The best traders feel fear, greed, frustration, just like everyone else. The difference is, they don't let those feelings make their decisions. They've trained their minds to recognize emotion as information, not instruction. That's why you'll see great traders staying calm while everyone else panics. They've done the inner work. They've run their self-diagnostic and rewired the circuits that most people never even know exist. And here's the hard truth most won't tell you. You can't fix what you refuse to see. The problem isn't your entries or exits, it's your unexamined impulses. You can switch strategies, follow different mentors, or change brokers. But if you don't change your internal wiring, you'll keep recreating the same results in new forms. Every chart you look at, every trade you take, is filtered through the lens of your psychology. Change that lens and everything shifts. Think about it this way: your mind is the ultimate trading platform. Every tick, every candle, every setup is processed through your beliefs, fears, and expectations. If that platform is corrupted with bias, you'll misread the data. You'll see what confirms your emotion, not what reflects the truth. But once you clean that platform, once you debug the code, you start to see clearly. Patterns make sense. Noise turns into structure. The market stops feeling like a battle and starts feeling like a conversation. So ask yourself right now, without judgment, are you wired right? Or have your instincts been running the show? Because most traders aren't losing to the market. They're losing to their own need to be right, their own fear of being wrong, their own inability to pause. The market rewards those who can observe without reacting, decide without rushing, and execute without attachment. When you reach that level of awareness, trading stops being emotional warfare and becomes a mental practice. You're no longer chasing setups. You're studying yourself. You're not trying to predict the next move. You're mastering the current moment. Every loss becomes feedback. Every win becomes validation. Every hesitation becomes a lesson. You stop fighting the market and start learning from it. That's the transformation every trader secretly craves. The point where psychology turns from a weakness into your greatest weapon. And here's the beautiful irony: when you finally stop chasing the market, it starts to come to you. When you stop trying to control every outcome, opportunities reveal themselves naturally. When you stop reacting to fear and greed, your decisions become calm, deliberate, and precise. You start to trade not because you need to, but because you choose to. That's what emotional freedom looks like in trading. So if you truly want to evolve as a trader, stop searching for the next best indicator or perfect setup. Start searching for yourself. Journal your emotions. Record your impulses. Watch your own mind the way you watch the chart. You'll start to notice patterns, not in price, but in your behavior. Maybe you rush into trades when you're tired. Maybe you overtrade after wins. Maybe you avoid setups after losses. Each of these patterns is a clue, and once you see them, you can change them. Rewiring doesn't happen overnight. It takes repetition, awareness, and brutal honesty. But the reward is priceless. Imagine sitting in front of the screen, calm and focused, while everyone else panics. Imagine cutting a losing trade without hesitation, because you know it's the right call. Imagine holding a winning position to your target, not because you're greedy, but because your plan told you to. That's what mastery looks like. It's not glamorous, it's not loud, it's silent, disciplined, and powerful. In the end, trading is a mirror, not a battlefield. Every chart, every candle, every outcome reflects what's happening inside you. The goal isn't to control the market, it's to control your mind. Because once you master that, the rest becomes easy. So ask yourself, right here, right now, when the next setup appears, will it be your strategy making the decision, or your wiring? Because once you see your wiring, you can rewrite it. And when you do, you stop trading like everyone else. You stop reacting, stop chasing, stop fearing. You become deliberate, you become patient, you become free. And that's when the market finally starts speaking your language. There comes a moment in every trader's journey when you realize knowledge alone isn't enough. You've studied charts, memorized patterns, and learned strategies that promise consistency. But deep down, you know something still pulls you off course. It's not the market, it's not your broker, it's your mind, your trader DNA. Every reaction, every hesitation, every emotional spike has been programmed by years of habits, fears, and experiences. And unless you rewrite that code, you'll keep reliving the same trading story, no matter how much you learn. Today, we begin the rewiring process, the act of recoding your trader DNA so your mind finally serves your method instead of sabotaging it. The first step in this transformation is mindfulness, pure awareness before action. Because before you can change a behavior, you must first see it. Most traders operate on autopilot. The chart moves, they react. A candle turns red, their heart races. A news spike hits, and they forget everything they planned. But a trader who practices mindfulness learns to pause before pulling the trigger. Imagine this: every time you're about to enter a trade, you take one deep breath and ask yourself a simple question. Am I acting out of awareness or out of impulse? That breath is your reset button. It's the moment when emotion loses its grip and logic steps forward. Mindfulness isn't about emptying your mind, it's about noticing what's in it. Try this exercise before each session. Take 1 minute to close your eyes. Notice your breath. If your mind feels restless, acknowledge it. If you feel confident, observe it. You're not judging, you're just becoming aware. Then, before each trade, do a quick breath check. One deep inhale, one slow exhale. It's simple, but it's powerful. That pause disrupts the pattern of impulsivity. You can also keep an emotional journal. After every trade, jot down what you felt before, during, and after the position. Did you enter because the setup was right, or because you were afraid of missing out? Over time, patterns emerge. You start to see that the market isn't unpredictable. You are. And once you can see your emotional cycles on paper, you gain the power to break them. Step 2 is building your mental framework. This is where discipline turns into identity. Every professional athlete has a pre-game ritual. They don't walk into competition cold. They prime their mind for performance. Traders should do the same. Create pre-trade rituals that anchor your focus and signal to your brain, it's time to perform. Maybe it's playing calm music that slows your heartbeat. Maybe it's repeating affirmations that reinforce confidence and patience. Maybe it's something as simple as adjusting your posture, sitting tall, relaxed shoulders, steady breath. These tiny actions send massive signals to your nervous system. You're teaching your brain to associate calm with trading instead of anxiety. There's a story of a trader named Marcus who used to panic every time he saw a red candle. To him, red meant danger, loss, failure. His heart would spike and he'd close trades too early. He realized that if he wanted to change his results, he had to change his response. So he began a 90-day mental rewiring challenge. Every morning before the market opened, he spent 5 minutes visualizing red candles, not as threats but as information. He repeated to himself, red doesn't mean wrong, red means read. For 90 days he conditioned his brain to see the same stimulus differently, and slowly his nervous system stopped overreacting. Red candles became neutral. He began to hold trades according to plan. By the end of that challenge, he didn't just improve his results, he transformed his entire relationship with the market. That's what mental frameworks do. They reprogram how your brain interprets signals so your emotions work for you, not against you. Step 3 is the power of structure, the trading plan. You see, emotion thrives in uncertainty. The less structure you have, the more room fear and greed have to play. But when you create a detailed plan, you outsource decision-making to logic. I call it building your externalized prefrontal cortex. It means letting your plan think for you when your emotions try to take over. A solid trading plan isn't just a set of rules, it's your blueprint for emotional control. It might look like this: entry criteria, exit criteria, stop-loss placement, risk per trade, time of day filter, and one crucial element most traders ignore, an emotion log. After every trade, you record how you felt before entering, during the move, and after closing. You note your level of confidence, fear, or excitement. This becomes your psychological feedback loop. The reflection that follows reveals whether you're trading from clarity or chaos. Think of your plan as your compass in a storm. When the waves of volatility hit, you don't have to wonder what to do, you just follow your map. That's how professionals operate. They don't rely on feelings, they rely on framework. A structured plan turns uncertainty into procedure, and procedure kills panic. The more externalized your plan becomes, the less your emotions can hijack your trades. It's not about removing emotion entirely. It's about creating a structure so strong that emotion no longer dictates your behavior. But even with awareness, ritual, and structure, there's one more piece that completes the transformation: community. Because no matter how disciplined or self-aware you become, isolation is your biggest enemy. Trading alone for months can turn your thoughts into an echo chamber. You start doubting yourself, second-guessing every decision, losing objectivity. The truth is, we learn faster and perform better when surrounded by others who share our goals. Humans are wired for connection. Our brains contain mirror neurons, cells that subconsciously imitate the behavior and energy of those around us. If you surround yourself with impulsive, emotional traders, you'll unconsciously mirror their chaos. But if you immerse yourself in a disciplined, growth-oriented community, your brain will start copying that stability. Accountability partners amplify this effect. When you know someone's watching your progress, you perform differently. You pause before breaking your rules because you know you'll have to explain it later. You push harder because someone else believes in your potential. A community gives you both pressure and support, the perfect environment for transformation. In fact, look at any great trader in history. None of them evolved in isolation. They had mentors, peers, sounding boards. They had people who challenged their blind spots and helped them see their own mind from the outside. That's what community does. It gives you perspective. So let's tie this together. To recode your trader DNA, you start with awareness. Mindfulness breaks the chain of impulsive behavior by inserting a moment of clarity between thought and action. Then you build your mental framework. Rituals that ground your focus, physical and emotional anchors that turn trading into a state of flow. Next, you construct your structure, your trading plan, your external prefrontal cortex, your system for emotional accountability. And finally, you connect with others. You build or join a tribe of traders who reflect the discipline you want to embody. When these 4 steps work together, transformation happens. Your emotional spikes flatten out, your reactions slow down. You start responding to the market instead of chasing it. You stop trying to predict and start observing. You stop fighting losses and start learning from them. You stop being at the mercy of your wiring and begin to rewrite it line by line. Imagine what that version of you would look like. You sit down to trade, calm and alert. Your mind is still, your plan is ready, your emotions are in sync with your logic. You no longer fear losing because you trust your process. You no longer chase wins because you understand that consistency is built, not found. Every breath before a trade becomes a reminder of control. Every note in your journal becomes a line of code in your new identity. Every interaction with your community strengthens your mindset. You start seeing the market not as chaos, but as communication, a dialogue between your plan and the world. That's what it means to recode your trader DNA. It's not about learning new tricks, it's about becoming a new version of yourself. You don't eliminate fear, you transcend it. You don't fight emotion, you harness it. You don't chase certainty, you build discipline. The process is slow, deliberate, sometimes uncomfortable, but it's worth every moment. Because on the other side of that discomfort lies something powerful: emotional freedom. The ability to trade with peace, clarity, and conviction. The kind of peace that comes when your mind and your method finally align. So here's the challenge. For the next 90 days, treat your trading like a laboratory. Every breath, every emotion, every decision is data. Notice your impulses, record your patterns, refine your rituals, strengthen your structure, and connect with those who elevate you. Run the experiment with full commitment, because what you're really testing isn't your strategy, it's your self-control. The market is only the mirror. The real battle is within. And when you emerge from that process, when you've rewritten your reactions, reprogrammed your beliefs, and rebuilt your habits, you'll no longer be trading from the past. You'll be trading from the future. You'll be a trader whose mind moves in rhythm with the market, not against it. The red candles won't scare you. The green candles won't excite you. You'll be centered, patient, precise. You'll see setups clearly, execute calmly, and review honestly. That's not just evolution, that's mastery. Because at the end of the day, trading isn't just about charts and price. It's about character. It's about who you become when you face uncertainty, when you manage loss, when you stay disciplined under pressure. Every trade is a test of your wiring, and every moment of awareness is a chance to recode it. So breathe, focus, plan, and connect. Build the habits that build your future. Because once you've recoded your trader DNA, you're no longer reacting to the market, you're composing with it. You become the calm in the chaos, the mind behind the method, the architect of your own edge. And that's when the market finally starts working for you, not against you. That's when you stop surviving and start thriving. They say consistency is the holy grail of trading. But what if I told you that consistency isn't just about discipline or routine? It's about rewiring your brain. It's about reshaping the very structure of your mind until the habits that once took effort become effortless, until your reactions align perfectly with your goals. This is where traders separate from dreamers. This is where mastery begins, not on the charts, but inside the neural circuits that control your every move. You see, the brain is a living organism. It changes, molds, and adapts to whatever you feed it. Every time you resist a revenge trade, every time you follow your plan instead of your fear, you strengthen a new neural pathway. And the more you repeat that process, the stronger it becomes. That's neuroplasticity, the science of change. You're not stuck with the brain that panics. You can build the brain that performs under pressure. Think about that. You can literally sculpt your mental wiring through repetition. Every act of discipline leaves a physical trace in your brain, a tiny pathway that says, "This is who I am now." The trader who learns to wait, to breathe, to execute with patience, is not just controlling himself, he's evolving. But here's the truth: evolution doesn't happen in one day or one trade. It's built through something I call the consistency flywheel. Imagine it like a pilot logging flight hours. Each session, each trade, each journal entry is another hour in the cockpit. The first 100 hours, turbulent. The next 100, smoother. Eventually, your reactions become automatic, your corrections subtle, your decisions calm. That's mastery in motion. The flywheel has 4 stages: execute, reflect, refine, repeat. Execution is simple. You show up and take the trades according to your plan. You follow your checklist. You honor your process even when it feels boring. Reflection comes next. You review your actions, your mindset, your results. Not to judge, but to understand. Why did you take that trade? What emotion drove it? Reflection turns mistakes into teachers. Then comes refinement, the act of adjusting your strategy, your risk, your mindset. Tiny tweaks create massive improvements over time. And finally, repeat over and over until the loop becomes your default mode of operation. Execute, reflect, refine, repeat. This is the rhythm of mastery. The traders who stick to this loop don't need motivation, they build momentum. Like a flywheel gathering speed, their process becomes self-sustaining. Momentum replaces motivation, routine replaces emotion, and that's how consistency compounds. But even the most disciplined traders face something dangerous: burnout. You see, when trading becomes your entire identity, you lose perspective. You stop being a person who trades and start becoming only a trader. That's when emotions creep back in. You tie your self-worth to every win and every loss. You chase perfection because failure feels personal. And that's the trap. Because trading isn't about being perfect. It's about being adaptable. If you become obsessed with proving yourself, you'll destroy the balance that keeps you sharp. Burnout doesn't always look like exhaustion. Sometimes it looks like overtrading. Sometimes it's staring at charts for 10 hours a day, convincing yourself you're grinding when you're actually draining. You can't trade well when your brain is fatigued. You can't make objective decisions when you've tied your happiness to your last position. The most elite performers, pilots, athletes, special forces, they all have one thing in common. Recovery is part of their training. They know the brain can't perform at its peak without rest, perspective, and balance. You must treat trading the same way. Detachment isn't disinterest, it's strength. It's the ability to say, this trade doesn't define me. This result doesn't change who I am. That's how you stay in the game long enough for compounding to work its magic. Because the truth is, long-term success in trading isn't about finding the perfect system, it's about surviving long enough to master yourself. And survival requires balance. Build routines that reset your mind. Step away from screens, move your body, journal your emotions, spend time with people who ground you. Every bit of life outside the market strengthens the version of you that shows up inside it. Remember, this trading is not your identity, it's your craft. It's something you do, not something you are. When you detach your ego from your performance, your clarity returns. You stop forcing trades. You start flowing with the market. That's the paradox of mastery. When you stop needing to win, you start winning more often. Over time, the consistency loop reshapes not just your trading but your entire mindset. You begin to trust repetition. You no longer crave results, you crave refinement. You stop chasing highs and start chasing precision. You realize the process itself is the prize. Think of your journey as the gradual forging of steel. Each mistake is a hammer strike, each reflection a cooling process, each refinement a new edge. Slowly the raw metal becomes a blade, sharp, durable, unbreakable. That's what consistency does. It turns chaos into structure and impulse into instinct. But here's the deeper truth: your consistency isn't built in moments of excitement, it's built in moments of boredom. It's when the market is slow, your emotions are flat, and your discipline is tested that your wiring is truly formed. Every time you choose process over emotion, you reinforce your identity as a professional. Every act of patience builds your edge. That's neuroplasticity in action. Discipline carved into your neural code. So the next time you feel stuck, remember the loop never fails, only you do when you stop spinning it. Execute, reflect, refine, repeat. Day after day, trade after trade. It's not about intensity, it's about consistency. Because the brain doesn't change from one big effort. It changes from thousands of small ones done correctly. You are literally training your neurons to obey your goals. That's why it's called the consistency loop. It keeps you grounded when the market tests you and keeps you humble when the market rewards you. If you stay in that loop long enough, something magical happens. You no longer need to control your emotions. They begin to align naturally with your actions. You no longer need to fight your instincts. They start serving your purpose. The trader who once acted impulsively now acts intuitively, and there's a big difference between the two. Intuition is emotion refined by experience. It's the subconscious pattern recognition your brain develops after endless repetition. That's when trading feels effortless. Not because it's easy, but because your wiring and your goals are finally in sync. That's the end game. The trader who has mastered his brain doesn't chase the market, he flows with it. He doesn't fear drawdowns, he learns from them. He doesn't crave adrenaline, he values stillness. That's who you're becoming through the consistency loop. But understand this. Rewiring your brain for success isn't a project with an end date. It's a lifelong process. The market will evolve, and so will you. The moment you stop refining, you start decaying. So keep the loop alive. Protect it. Honor it. It's not just a method, it's your lifeline to peak performance. You're building a version of yourself capable of handling uncertainty, pressure, and time. And that version of you doesn't collapse under stress, it thrives in it. Because repetition breeds confidence, and confidence breeds calm. The calm trader isn't the one who feels nothing. It's the one who feels everything and still executes with precision. That's what long-term reinforcement means. It's not about forgetting fear, it's about coexisting with it. It's not about never doubting, it's about acting despite doubt. And the more you do it, the more your brain accepts it as normal. The first few months, your discipline feels forced. The next few, it feels routine. Eventually it becomes identity. You stop trying to be disciplined, you just are. You stop trying to stay consistent. You just live consistently. That's neuroplasticity at its peak. You've literally recoded your brain to operate at a higher standard. So ask yourself, are you feeding your flywheel or letting it rust? Because every action spins it forward or slows it down. Every reflection fuels refinement or feeds complacency. The market rewards the trader who stays in motion. So keep moving, keep looping, keep learning. The brain you're building today will trade for you tomorrow. One disciplined action at a time. You're carving out your edge, not on the charts, but in the neural pathways that define your future. Stay consistent, stay aware, and remember, The trader who wins in the long run isn't the smartest or the fastest. It's the one who mastered his own brain through repetition, balance, and belief. That's your path to permanence. That's how you build the trader who never breaks. Success in trading has never been about making money. It's about mastering yourself in a world designed to test your mind. Real success isn't measured in profit, but in peace. It's not about how often you win. It's about how well you handle losing. Because here's the truth: profits are temporary, but discipline is permanent. Every great trader eventually discovers this: the charts don't define you, your reactions do. You can't control the market, but you can control your mind, and that's where true consistency lies. Most traders spend their lives trying to predict the market, studying patterns, and chasing strategies, but the ones who last realize that the real market is internal. The fluctuations of your emotions mirror every rise and fall of price action. Fear, greed, impatience. Those are your real opponents. When you master them, you no longer trade against the market. You trade in harmony with it. Success, therefore, isn't about constant profit. It's about emotional consistency. It's about being the same trader on a losing day as you are on a winning day. The one who doesn't get shaken, who doesn't get greedy, who doesn't break discipline, just because the market threw a curveball. The emotionally consistent trader becomes unshakable, and that's the real edge, because markets change, but mindset is forever. A trader who knows himself will always beat a trader who only knows the market, because knowing yourself means knowing your triggers, your biases, your patterns, and your limits. It means you understand when to step back, when to push forward, and when to do nothing at all, and that self-awareness, once developed, is more valuable than any technical indicator. It's your inner compass guiding you through uncertainty, chaos, and temptation. So if you've ever doubted yourself, remember this: you are not fixed. You are not wired to fail. Your brain, your habits, your emotions. Everything about you can change. You can reprogram yourself from impulsive to intentional, from emotional to composed, from chaotic to controlled. That's the beauty of being human. You are adaptable. Neuroplasticity isn't just science, it's hope. It means your wiring can evolve with your will. Every moment you choose patience over panic, reflection over reaction, you are reshaping your trader DNA. And over time, those tiny decisions compound into transformation. The trader who once chased noise begins to see clarity. The one who once felt lost begins to act with purpose. You become the calm in the storm, not the chaos swept away by it. That's your evolution. Not an overnight shift, but a gradual refinement. Each day carving a new edge into your mindset. Maybe today you're struggling with discipline. Maybe your emotions still take over. Maybe you still doubt if you'll ever make it. But listen carefully. Every master trader you admire once felt the same. They didn't conquer markets overnight, they conquered themselves day by day. They fell, failed, reflected, and came back sharper. You can do the same. You already have everything you need within you. The difference between where you are and where you want to be isn't luck. It's rewiring. It's committing to the process of self-mastery no matter how many times you stumble. Because one day, you'll look back and realize you didn't just learn to trade. You learned to think, to wait, to trust yourself. You became something more than a trader. You became disciplined. And discipline, not desire, defines destiny. You see, the wired trader doesn't chase the outcome. He builds the process. He knows every trade is a test of character. He doesn't crumble when things go wrong because he understands that every mistake is feedback, every setback is training. His focus isn't on making money. It's on becoming the kind of person who deserves it. And that's the ultimate transformation. When you stop needing the market to validate you, the market stops controlling you. That's when freedom begins. That's when trading becomes effortless. Not because it's easy, but because your emotions and actions finally align. You've spent this journey learning how your brain works, how emotions shape your trades, how discipline builds structure, and how repetition rewires your patterns. Now, it's time to take everything you've learned and live it. To move from understanding to embodiment. To stop being a student of trading psychology and start being an example of it. If you're ready to rewire your mind, start today. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today. Every trade, every reflection, every mindful pause is a chance to reprogram your behavior. You don't need perfection. You need progress. The loop you began, awareness, reflection, adjustment, continues forever. It's your lifelong operating system. It will carry you through uncertainty, losses, and wins alike. And as you repeat it, you'll notice something shift. Your thoughts become quieter, your reactions slower, your confidence deeper. That's when you know you've crossed over from emotional trader to wired trader. But this journey isn't meant to be walked alone. Great traders don't grow in isolation. They evolve in communities that challenge and support them. Surround yourself with those who think long-term, who value process over profits, who push you to reflect, not react. If you want to accelerate your evolution, join a community built around mindset, mastery, and discipline. Share your journey. Take the self-assessment quiz. See where your wiring stands today and where it can go tomorrow. Because awareness is the first step toward transformation. When you engage with traders on the same path, something powerful happens. Your mirror neurons fire. You start absorbing discipline, not just studying it. You become who you surround yourself with. That's how human wiring works. So build your environment wisely. Let your circle elevate you, not distract you. And as this journey concludes, remember, it's not really an ending. It's the start of a new chapter, one where your emotions serve you, not sabotage you. One where success isn't about a single trade, but a state of mind. You've learned how to think differently, act deliberately, and feel consciously. That's the foundation of every legendary trader. So as you move forward, ask yourself, what kind of trader do I want to become? The one ruled by emotion, or the one ruled by awareness? The one who reacts, or the one who observes? The one who survives, or the one who evolves? Your DNA doesn't define you, your discipline does. You can't control the market, but you can control yourself, and that's enough to create your edge. Because the trader who controls his mind controls his future. The market will test you, break you, rebuild you. But if you stay consistent, aware, and grounded, you'll rise again every single time. So take a deep breath. Look at where you started. Look at who you're becoming. This isn't just about trading anymore. It's about transformation. You are not the same person who began this journey, and that's the point. You've rewired more than your trading. You've rewired your life. And as you continue forward, remember this final truth: the market rewards those who master themselves first. The rest is just execution. So keep evolving, keep refining, and keep walking the path of the wired trader. Because the greatest trade you'll ever make isn't with money, it's with your own mind.